so much for that introduction. That was really sweet. Thank you both for putting on this event. This is fantastic. My wife and I live 15 minutes away, and we didn't know this was here. So this is wonderful. Thank you all for coming. And Nastasia, thanks for opening. I should be opening for you, seriously. Thank you. That was amazing. So I'm going to read a little bit from a short story that's part of a collection that I've been working on the past few years. And I chose this one tonight because there are some references to Game of Thrones. And as many of you know, tonight is the culmination of like almost a decade of television. I'm excited. I mean, who's going to sit over there? Who's it going to be? I don't know. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll just kind of go into it. And I guess I should let you know that this is the story of a young woman who lives in Hawaii with her mother, and they have to end up moving to Phoenix, Arizona. And it's called Non-Pacific. The only way you can think to describe it, seasickness. It starts on the connecting flight out of LA when the plane banks up and eastward and you lose sight of the ocean. Cracked lips, papery skin, fluids evaporating fast from your body. Tongue thick and sticky, guts in a twist, your head on spin cycle. None of this is from flying though. Your illness is about the Pacific, the body of water in which you spend every day of your life. Now you're moving 400 miles away at 500 miles an hour. As your mother said, the ocean's only for rich people now. A handsome flight attendant notices you look pale, asks if you need anything. A one-way ticket back to Hawaii, you say? Then your mother whispers your name, Milani. You share the same warped sense of humor, but this one lands hard. More than getting laid off from a restaurant job on Maui or being told by a realtor that the only West Coast city she can afford is Phoenix, this thing you said hurts. You vow never to say anything like it again, and if this sickness lasts, to never let on. You reach over and take her hand, so much like your own, the same quarter-moon cuticles, same thin fingers and tan skin, no rings. With your free hand, you text her an apology. You watch as she texts back. Next time, just ask if he's single. The walls of the Phoenix airport are made from sand. You remember what you heard in school, that glass is a product of heat-fired grit. You imagine the Arizona sun could flame this entire building into crystal, the walls and toilets and baggage carousels. How easy then to smash everything. Things that happen the first morning in Phoenix. The AC's drone wakes you up 2 hours before your alarm, dried blood in your nostrils, on your parched lips. Your mother texts you from the bathroom, do you have an extra roll of shit tickets, she asks. Your new school is nearly as big as the airport and also made from sand. The drinking fountain water tastes bitter, rusty, the temperature of blood. It stings your cracked lips, your teeth. A Hawaiian surfer girl with 48,000 Instagram followers has celebrity potential in Phoenix, but you stick to yourself, a sort of self-imposed quarantine. You eat lunch in the library. There are no titles about seasickness, but you get obsessed with a book about a leper colony on the remote Hawaiian island of Molokai. The one other kid who eats in the library, a sophomore who wears wide old man shoes with Velcro straps, looks at you with pity from behind his copy of Game of Thrones. When he arrived on Molokai, the Catholic missionary Father Damien found 816 exiled lepers living in squalor. His first action was to build a church. Then he bandaged wounds, constructed houses and furniture, made coffins, dug graves, always putting the colonist's welfare above his own. What the library kid tells you, he's never seen the ocean. He once gave himself a hernia while boogie boarding at the water park. That yes, he's sorry, he's actively working to resolve his bad breath problem. That your attitude reminds him of Arya Stark from Game of Thrones. Your honors English class is already halfway through the semester. a poetry unit on T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. You feel like you've never understood anything so completely. Here is no water, but only rock. Fourth period, you have earth sciences, where it's more of the same, plus earthquakes. Things you daydream. That a magnitude 10 tremor scores a crisp edge on California. Then the sea folds and tears off the entire state, delivering surf to the doorstep of your Phoenix condo complex. You have an invisible sword on your belt, Arya Stark style, that for once you could eat lunch without the library kid bothering you. It doesn't help that you chew your parched lips. The blood tastes like metal. Maybe your lips are falling off. Maybe you're a leper. Maybe that's the reason no one talks to you at school except the library kid. Online is even worse. No more surfing clips to post on Instagram, and nothing but hot envy for those who do. Father Damien, the patron saint of outcasts and exiles. One day you feel so sick, you go to the nurse. You tell her about your stinging teeth, your dizzy head. She hands you an Advil and a Kotex. You decline and explain your self-diagnosis, seasickness in reverse. I think what you need is the guidance counselor. The counselor, Mr. Freeman, wears a blue dress shirt, but you can see that he's big, muscular, tattoos sneaking past his shirt sleeves, like some older guys you used to surf with on Maui. Hair shaved close on the sides, a messy wave on top, smile full of crooked white teeth. He raises an eyebrow when you tell him. From Hawaii to Phoenix, he says, honey, no wonder you're sick. He asks about the ocean, so you tell him about Red Sands Beach, how you surf there every morning before school. Most weekends you travel down to Lahaina or across to Oahu for contests. You hope to turn pro by your 19th birthday. On days when the waves were too big or blown out, or you had a failure of nerve, you come home feeling vaguely ill until morning. Better if there were no waves at all, because that meant no one was in the water. If there's surfing happening and you're not part of it, you feel gut sick and thirsty. And now you're in this place with no water, but all your friends, girls you competed against in contests, are out in the ocean every day while you fall behind. Not being from Oahu, where the best waves were, you had only a tiny shred of a chance of turning pro, but that's over now. The bell rings. Mr. Freeman has already found you on Instagram. This is you? He says. Jesus Christ. You need to come back and talk to me, at least twice a week. Mr. Freeman, the first man to ever call you honey. 2 days later, you visit Mr. Freeman, but only because your iCalendar's empty. Cocktail? Mr. Freeman asks, hands you a coffee mug of Phoenix rust water, which you smell and then place under the chair. So what am I supposed to do, you ask? Good question, he says. He shrugs, smiles at you in a way that kind of sparks the nausea just a little. If you wanted advice about college exams, I could help, he says, but for this, there's no cure other than getting the hell out, which doesn't seem likely for either of us. You're stuck here too, you ask? He tells you about his spouse, older and more successful, a professor at Arizona State. Mr. Freeman went to college there too, always planned to move back to New York City, but they got married and now he's marooned in the desert. You should probably get to class, he says, and I've got a bunch of bullshit papers to fill out. He rifles through the precarious pile on his desk until he locates a spiral-bound notebook. Here, I thought of one thing, he says. Something my shrink has me doing. The idea is every day you write down a bunch of shit you're grateful for. He hands you the notebook. I'm a hopeless ingrate, he says, but you're still young and gorgeous, so maybe you'll have better luck. My mother, Mr. Freeman, chapstick, real Mexican food, Father Damien, T.S. Eliot, my mother, carne asada burritos, and in strike-through, the kid from the library. The next day in the library, the kid hands you a brown paper bag. Inside the bag is a store-bought book about leprosy in medieval England. Thank you, you say. He shows you the book he bought for himself, The Essentials of Medieval Swordsmanship. The two of you sit down together, start turning the pages. What's your mother texts you? Go suck yourself. Whoops, that was meant for my old boss. Don't try to suck yourself. You could get hurt. You visit Mr. Freeman every other day. You listen to him talk, watch him gesture with his solid, thick, tan hands, square fingernails. He talks like no one you ever met in Hawaii, like it's his favorite sport. One day outside the counseling office, you pass the library kid, the only other person who visits Mr. Freeman. The kid bows deeply, says, "Good day, my lady." Then he draws an invisible sword. You play along, unsheathing your own imaginary weapon, imitating the moves he showed you in his medieval swordsmanship book. As you fend off the library kid's jabs and strikes, an older student walks by, calls you Renaissance fair freaks. The Renaissance was for jerks, the library kid says. The older student spins on his heels. You see now that he's dressed like a surfer, a Phoenix surfer, as if there was such a thing. "What's up, Howley?" you say. He glances at you before slapping the library kid hard across the ear, kook style. Then, from nowhere, Mr. Freeman lunges past you, hauls the older kid off by his holster. The library kid looks at you, wide-eyed, then raises his invisible sword in victory. Lemon trees. Pirated episodes of Game of Thrones, Library Kid, Chapstick, Arya Stark, my mother's text messages, all the sandstone spires around Phoenix like castle towers. Mr. Freeman. Stop there. Thank you.